What if I told you? What if I actually told you that your high blood sugar isn't just a pancreas problem? It's not just a problem from your pancreas, right? It is a gut problem. Do you believe? Well, when your gut lining fails, poisons flood your blood and forcing your sugar levels to skyrocket in a way that you never would have thought about.
So we are talking leaky gut. And the science is clear. It directly fuels inflammation that drives up blood sugar.
Directly fuels inflammation, which drives up sugar, right? Now, the breakthrough, though, is healing your gut can help fix both issues at once. That is, the issue of high blood sugar levels and then the gut problem, right? So stay tuned to proceed. My name is Dr. Oteng.
And my name is Dr. Gifty Oteng.
Oh, come on, man. Dr. Gifty Oteng. Otengs are here right now. We are actually going to talk about leaky gut and high blood sugar. How healing your gut actually fixes both of them.
So the areas we will cover are what leaky gut is, or increased intestinal permeability really means for your body.
And then from there, we are also going to talk about the gut sugar or the gut blood sugar connection. How a leaky gut sparks insulin resistance, which is actually backed by studies.
Then we will talk about how to fix leaky gut and high blood sugar.
How to fix your leaky gut is what we're going to be talking about too. And then from there, we're actually going to hit a bonus point, which you would have to stay to the end to know. And the bonus point is the number one worst food for your gut lining. About 90% of actual diabetics are eating this daily. And we don't want you to be part of those people who are doing this. So now let's begin. What is leaky gut? That's the first question that we want to answer. What is leaky gut? You probably have heard people talk about leaky gut. What is actually leaky gut, or what we also say intestinal permeability for your body. So what it is actually is increased intestinal permeability in your pretty much your small intestines, but it could happen also in your large intestine, right? And what we actually mean by leaky is as simple as the word says, leaking. If you're leaking water from a water hose, you can picture what it is. Water, instead of going straight through, would not, right? And so leaky gut or intestinal permeability just describes a condition where the lining of your small intestine becomes damaged. The lining in your small intestines becomes actually damaged. And if it's damaged, then there's a problem.
Yes, so normally this lining acts as a tight barrier, selectively allowing nutrients to pass into your bloodstream while blocking harmful substances. So in leaky gut, the connections between the cells lining and the intestine loosen.
This means the cells lining the intestine, right?
Yes.
They loosen in leaky gut. So I actually like it when I show it with my fingers interlocking, because that's an easier analogy to show. If the cells in your gut, they're supposed to be packed, the lining of your intestine is supposed to be packed together like this, right? But when we say somebody has a leaky gut, what then comes up is there are holes. Instead of tightly packed, the lining of the small intestine becomes not tightly fitted together. And so holes begin to poke through, and then that's where a lot of the problems that we have actually begin.
Yes, so the holes cause it to be leaky, right?
Yes,
it leaks out.
Yeah, so stuff will leak through those holes into your blood.
The food that you are eating, everything in the intestine is supposed to stay in the intestines. And the lining selectively allow the nutrients, to go into your bloodstream. But if you have leaky gut, meaning that there are holes in your small intestine, the toxins and, the things that are not supposed to go into the blood gets in the blood. So that's where the term leaky gut comes in.
Definitely.
Right.
So you are actually allowing stuff that's supposed to be kept out to be kept in, which is not a safe place to be, right?
Right. So now that you know what leaky gut is, let's talk about how leaky gut sparks insulin resistance.
All right. Let's do that then. Is it me who goes next, or you? I'll start, right?
Yeah.
So
So let's talk about it. Yeah.
how does leaky gut actually spark insulin resistance? That is where we are going to be focusing on at the moment. So, leaky gut allows undigested food particles or toxins and bacteria to actually leak through the intestinal wall into the bloodstream, and this triggers inflammation, right? This triggers inflammation and also an immune response ensues, because obviously, if you have what do we call it? If you have holes in your intestines and food particles and toxins and bacteria are going through into your blood, they're all going to be foreign to your blood, and so that eventually will lead to inflammation. Your body becomes inflamed because it thinks there are foreign materials in there, and so if there are foreign stuff in your blood, then the body has to mobilize its own attack forces to fight it, right? And that is the beginning of the problems we see in leaky gut.
Yeah, so the hallmark of this chronic inflammation is insulin resistance.
Insulin resistance, my goodness.
Yeah, so a key culprit of this inflammation is lipopolysaccharides. We don't want to throw in the big words here, right? But it is the component of the outer wall of certain gut bacteria. So this gut bacteria that is supposed to stay in the gut get into the bloodstream. That's where the chronic inflammation starts, and that leads to insulin resistance.
And they have this lipopolysaccharides, or what we call LPS, in their walls. So even if the bacteria itself wasn't harmful, you can say that beneficial bacteria in your gut, you're fine. But because of the lipopolysaccharide in their wall, that is, it's considered an endotoxin, or it's considered a poison. And if a poison enters the blood, then definitely there has to be something going on called inflammation, and some other things that are going on as what we call the inflammatory cascade. But let me just explain a little. So the LPS, which is lipopolysaccharide from the cell walls, which act as toxins when they enter the blood, causes the release of certain inflammatory cytokines, interleukins and stuff like that. So these inflammatory cytokines, what they do then is to directly interfere with insulin signaling pathway in your cells. And so, leaky gut, as much as it may sound far-fetched to say that if you have leaky gut, you're going to have insulin resistance, it's so straightforward. You have these LPS, or certain toxins from bacteria, entering because of the holes in your lining, and this then causes inflammation, and also it directly interferes with the way your cells are supposed to respond to glucose and to insulin, as a matter of fact. And that is basically insulin resistance. So you had leaky gut, and then that is leading to high glucose amounts running around because of insulin resistance. So it definitely directly affects your insulin levels if your gut is not healthy. If you have this LPS getting into your blood, and the sad thing is not just that, the other stuff from your intestines that will get through the holes and get into your blood. But the LPS is the one well studied and known that as long as those polysaccharides in the cell wall of the bacteria gets into your blood, you are definitely going to be inflamed. You're going to produce those cytokines, which are inflammatory markers, which directly, I'm not talking about indirect, they will directly stop your cells from responding to your insulin. And so you become insulin resistant. You produce more insulin, but your cells cannot see it. It's like beating a drum that makes no sound. You will beat it and beat it and beat it, and you still hear nothing. Why? Because it is unresponsive. And it is all because of the gut permeability. The holes allowing some LPS or lipopolysaccharides to enter, and then causing direct influence on your insulin resistance, on your insulin response, I should say. So that is the major way that it happens.
Yeah, so the cytokines that you were talking about, right? So they disrupt the signals that tell the cell to take up glucose from the blood. when insulin binds to the receptors. So it disrupts
So
the
basically,
way that
it's
insulin is
supposed to,
supposed to work in your system.
because typically if insulin bounds to the receptor, then it will tell the cell, hey, I see insulin here. That means that you got to pick up some glucose from the blood.
Right.
But then if, like you're saying, the receptors binding and it's nothing still happening, then you have insulin resistance. You produce more insulin and yet nothing will happen, right? And so that is what we are talking about. Now, let's talk briefly about how to fix the leaky gut and also high blood sugar levels. It's not enough to give you the problems that happen without telling you some fixes. So we're going to be talking to you about some of the fixes that could happen, with your leaky gut. Most people have it and they don't know. And we will tell you what we're going to show you next time. But for now, let's do some of the fixes.
Yeah. So the first one that we want to talk about is you have to increase the intake of high fiber foods and prebiotics rich foods. So foods that are high in fiber is what we are recommending. If you take such foods, it's likely that you are going to work on that leaky issue. So foods, high fiber foods, I think we went through that last time. We have the grains, all the grains, the
Let's mention some of
apples,
them. Yeah.
right?
Lettuce, apples, spinach,
Yeah,
nuts,
asparagus.
all those good stuff, right? Nuts.
Yes.
Anything that is fiber rich is what we're talking
Fiber-rich.
about. Fiber
Yeah.
rich.
So you're not going for the polished foods, right?
The refined,
polished foods.
processed
foods.
We are
You
not
are
doing
going
that.
to take the food, whole foods. I think we keep mentioning whole foods. They are rich in fiber. So taking such foods really help fix this gutty the gut issue, the leaky gut that we are talking about. And we also mentioned what prebiotics. Prebiotics, we have nutrients or ingredients in onions and garlics, in bananas, in oat, asparagus, all that have ingredients in them that feed the good bacteria in your gut. So taking such foods always help so that the good bacteria get more and you prevent this leaky gut from happening.
Definitely. So that's as simple as that. No matter how big the problem is, now you know one of the first fixes is what? Increase your dietary intake of fiber-rich
foods.
No matter what kind of food, as long as it's not processed, you're going to get some fiber in there. And then from that, she also mentioned the prebiotics. So all those two together will help you grow and nourish your beneficial bacteria so that you won't end up with a leaky gut. Basically, the leaky gut is going to happen when you have excess of the bad bacteria or bad virus or bad unicell organisms. If they are in excess of the good ones, that's where the problem happens. So the approach to fixing the problem is to ensure that the good ones always dominate. And that is why you feed them with, like the stuff she said, the prebiotics, so that they will be able to grow on them, and the fiber, they will be able to grow them. They will feed them and they will grow also on top of the regular fibers. And so as long as you are eating, as somebody said, one ingredient foods, if it is apple, it's not processed, you are just chewing it. If it is spinach, you are not processing it. So it's just raw thing, right? Even if it's cooked, it's not as processed as it would have been. If it is lettuce, it's not processed. If it is, give me more, grains, and it's not processed, not refined grain, then it's not processed. So you get fiber in all those foods. Then you're going to be able to feed and also grow the beneficial bacteria, which are going to basically protect the lining of your intestines against erosion and against the host from happening, so that you don't get leaky gut. So that's the first way to go about it. The second way is to eliminate or completely reduce added sugars or refined grains. I think I alluded to that, right? Added sugars and even ultra processed foods. Some people, every food they eat is processed. And now we are not just doing processing. We're doing ultra processed foods. So foods that have been highly processed. Highly processed. So processing is so much. And we can give examples. I have some examples.
What are examples?
Refined flour. Refined white flour. You are eating that donut, you're eating that white bread. Even some rice has been so refined, and we call it perfumed rice. Like, even if you want to wash the rice, you put it in water and you see nothing. It's so clean. It's been completely stripped of all its beneficial fiber. And those are stuff that you don't want to indulge in, because if you do, you're going to create those holes. Simple as that. You're going to create those holes if the bad bacteria exceeds the population of the good ones.
And you also talk about sugar, right?
Yeah, we're going to go there. We're going to get there.
So the third one that we want to talk about is consuming probiotics through fermented foods. So you go grocery, the foods that you are buying, do we have any kind that is fermented? So like we have the kombuchas, we have the yogurt, we have the kefir. There are certain foods that are rich in such foods. Those have probiotics, and probiotics also feed on the good bacteria and strengthen them to grow more and more. So there are studies that talk about specific strains, that are bacteria that are well studied. So such like the lactobacillus and the bifidobacterium species. Such things have been studied over and over, and it's been proven that it's very healthy. And such foods you want to add it to your food so that you grow the good bacteria, you multiply them so that they will prevent this leaky guts that we are talking about. So plain yogurt, right, also have a lot of such. You don't go for the sugars and all that other things in there. You go for the sugar-free, fat-free yogurt that has a lot of probiotics that will help feed these good bacteria in your gut.
Definitely. So that is one thing that we actually are talking about: feeding your gut with more beneficial bacteria, especially the lactobacillus and the bifidobacterium species. There are several kinds of other probiotics, where they actually formulated them into some capsules that people can take if it is so bad that it has to be repaired, unnaturally. But the natural way is always the best. That is not something somebody has made, but you eating your way into making it work out. Now we have a comment here by our own mother, and I think I would rather show it on our comment thing here. Let me see if that will come.
It's on your.
It's on there, right? Yeah. I was trying to show it on this side and see if it will come more. This is where we can see it well. Yes. So our mother is saying wonderful. Thank you for watching, and thank you for showing us that love from Facebook. All right, so we are going to continue saying that you have to include those fermented foods. One fermented food that I like is the kombuchas. I don't know if you mentioned yogurt. People can also eat yogurt, plain yogurt, or non-sweetened, I should say. Non-sweetened yogurt, or kefir, and sauerkraut, kimchi, and then what? Kombuchas. I love my kombuchas, but the sad thing is that some of the kombuchas have been so messed up with sugars that you can barely taste what you want to taste. But that being said, if you can get low sugar kombuchas, you have those fermented foods that have a rich source of probiotics themselves. So you're adding bacteria, live bacteria, good bacteria into your intestines, so that you form that lining which protects you against leakiness, which, as we have already shown you, leads to a lot of problems. And then a lot of people also eat sauerkraut, right? And yogurt is the easiest one. I usually recommend yogurts to people who are on antibiotics, because when you take antibiotics for a long time, even sometimes antifungals or antibacterial antibiotics, you sort of wipe out a lot of the good bacteria, because the antibiotics are non-discriminate. They will just wipe out every bacteria in your tummy, in your intestines. And so a good practice is when you finish your course of any course of antibiotics, you begin to eat yogurt, you begin to eat or drink these kombuchas to populate back your lost bacteria, good bacteria, so that you can keep your intestinal lining intact. Big words, right? So you can keep the host away, because if you have only bad bacteria, then you're going to create those hosts, and the hosts are the ones that are going to lead you into other serious problems. We are only mentioning diabetes, but this process also happens in heart disease, because remember, it's low-grade inflammation which is working against you. And as long as there's inflammation, it's not just diabetes. It works in all other disease states. It's going to make your heart, high blood pressure is going to go up, your cholesterol, plaques are going to be formed, because inflammation is inflammation. But we're just focusing
and also like to incorporate that in your maybe weekly diet, daily diet, instead of buying the ice creams. The weather is changing, it's getting warmer, so instead of shopping for ice cream, you can go for the plain yogurt, and the one that we drink, the kefir, right? And instead of doing the ice cream, you can get your plain yogurt, and to make it a little sweeter, you can do your berries. You can add your berries, you can add a little nuts in there, and that can supplement your dinner or your lunch or your breakfast, and that can really help. So maybe twice a week, twice in the whole week, if
this
possible.
is on top of eating your salads and your cabbages.
Yes, because some of us consciously wouldn't be the first choice when we open the fridge, to go for the plain yogurt. It doesn't taste good. You want something sweet, something cold. So if you can intentionally reach out for plain yogurt, then you add your berries and you add your nut, and you sit down and eat. If it's not once a day, every other day, or 3 times a week, that can be something that you can think about as you go grocery, and you pick and choose the healthy foods instead of going for the ones that will hurt your gut.
Definitely. So make the right choices going forward. Include them. And I know if you have a sweet tongue, at least instead of buying something as sweet as an ice cream, as you're saying, you could potentially use a kombucha. In that case, even if it's sweet, you are getting some good bacteria from there, right? So I have introduced a lot of people to kombuchas, and they love it. So that is another easy way. Instead of drinking, for example, people who want to drink soda, some people, they have become so used to drinking certain sweet things after eating that they can't stop their soda. Well, tell you what, the only thing that you can do in this case is to just pour out your kombucha into a can, and it's like a soda for you. Come on, man. Right?
You can pour the yogurt too,
Yeah.
We have the liquid yogurt too.
Liquid yogurt drinks too. Yeah, we
so
buy
you
that
can
too.
drink that, and that can also supplement the probiotics that you need.
Yes. And then on top of that, doing your real fiber, because when you drink the live bacteria, such as from the yogurt or kombucha or any of those sauces, they have to grow on something. The medium on which they grow is your salad. It's your fiber. So you have to eat your fiber, which is salads and greens and fruits and nuts and veggies, basically. And then drink your live bacteria, which is the probiotics, or even if you take a probiotic capsule, when you take them, then they will have a medium to grow on. Or otherwise, when you drink it, it's just going to go right through you and come out. But they have to have a place to grow.
Right.
And that is the fiber portion. So you can't just take it out. It has to be combined. So let's keep that in mind and do that for fixing our leaky gut. And I can tell you, if you can do it and repeat it for over a long period, you are going to heal your leaky gut. There are other things that we're going to be talking about. It's not just those two, but definitely fiber and also including fermented foods. All right. So the next thing is to engage in moderate exercise. Moderate exercise. So if you if you exercise, studies show that consistent exercise, which if you have watched this before, we say that regular exercise should include at least 150 minutes
a week
of exercise, rigorous exercise in a week, 150 minutes per week. Now, if you divide 150 into 7 days or 5 days in a week, it comes to a manageable time that you can do per day or every other day. Either it's like 20 minutes a day or 15 minutes a day or 30 minutes a day every other day. You got to figure it out. But overall, if you come as close to 150 minutes total per week as possible, you're going to be top-notch healthy, because not only are you going to increase the diversity of the good bacteria in your tummy, by tummy, in your intestines, in your gut, you're also going to actually improve your insulin sensitivity. You are going to be able to fight blood sugar, spikes better, while you are also fixing your gut, because now with the exercise, according to studies, you are diversifying. You are including all kinds of bacteria. You're giving the chance for all the other bacteria to grow, the good bacteria to grow. It's not going to be just lactobacillus or just bifidobacterium, but it's going to be all the other kinds that are good. They are going to be able to thrive more if you are exercising regularly. And so that's very huge. Exercise cuts. This part of exercise is it's amazing, because you are fixing your gut, you are fixing your blood pressure. If you exercise regularly, you are fixing your blood sugar, because of the exercise, you are burning the sugar that is running around, and you're also fixing your heart. Your heart is going to be strong. And if you are getting older, it's going to make you strong physically too. So you can beat it, and we can't emphasize it any much more than we can.
I think we were trying to figure out how exercise really diversify the organism in your gut. And we mentioned that when you exercise, you engage your muscles, right? So as you're engaging your muscles and the cells, it tends to work better in the gut area. Your cells lining tend to be healthier. And because they are healthier, there is no way that you are going to poke holes in there because of the exercise. And the organism in there becomes healthier because they are getting the oxygen and all that is happening as you exercise, happening over there. And all the different kinds of organisms tend to thrive. And as they thrive, they get healthier. There is no way that the bad bacteria is going to overshadow them, because you're feeding them right with the fiber and with the fermented foods and also with exercise. And you are avoiding the processed foods and the sugars that feed the bad bacteria. So doing that definitely help make your overall biome healthier.
Definitely. And exercise in itself increases insulin sensitivity. I just want to throw that in again in case you missed it. So you are exercising, that studies show that it's going to help your microbiome, or the good bacteria and fungus and virus in your belly. It's going to improve it. But then exercising itself also makes you more sensitive to insulin. So if you are diabetic or you have diabetes running in your family, that is a double whammy. Double good. I don't know if whammy is good. Yeah, so definitely exercise. We can't stress it anymore than that.
Now that the weather is changing, I think there is no more excuse, right?
No more excuse, right?
Now you can step out there and go for a run or take a stroll and do something other than just being at one place because you are cold or you can handle the weather. Now the weather is changing. We have to step out there. I think the big thing is the pollen and the allergies out there. So just protect yourself and be safe and step out there and exercise as much as possible. Yeah. Right. So now let's get to the bonus point, right?
The bonus point. Come on, man. If you are watching now, you get to know the bonus point of the show today.
Yeah. So the number one worst food for gut lining, which 90% of diabetics eat every day. So we have the drum roll.
Drum roll. Right? Come on, man. Drum roll. Not that it's good. This is cheers, but at least we have that. That could be a drum. I think I have a drum set here. Let me see.
No.
That's not it. No, no. Yeah, that's fine. That's fine. All right, all
The
right.
number one West food.
The number one West food. That's why. Come on, let me hit that again. Number one West food. Yeah, very very bad. Very very bad food. And you want me to go?
Yeah, go for it.
All right. So the number one West food. If you could guess, if you've been watching this long enough, you could guess. And it's not because we hate this, but that's what the studies say. I mean, there are other foods in the same category that could also be called worse. But for us, we think this is a really worse because it cuts across everywhere. And the food again is sugars and of course high fructose corn syrup. Oh man, sugars.
Worst food for your stomach lining.
To touch and create holes in your belly, in your intestines, is the sugars, especially the added sugars. You know, the sugars that you add, whether it's your coffee that you are adding it, or some tomato paste that they have added the sugar, or some kind of other preparation in terms of food or whatever that they have added the sugar to it. So if any sugar is added to anything, that is the one that leads to host leaky gut, to be short, right? And what are some of the food stuff in this category? First one is what? Sodas or minerals.
Sodas. That's a big one. You know, you were saying that some people are from this culture or some upcoming family feel like they need to add minerals or sodas after they serve dinner or lunch. You know, it's something that we are discouraging because the amount of sugar in that soda is so huge that if you keep at it, it's definitely going to affect your stomach lining, your gut, and it's going to lead to leaky gut problem. It comes with a lot of issues like we discussed. So try and avoid sodas as much as possible. Go for the water.
Or even the concentrated juices that they add sugar to it.
Yes.
They will say it's apple juice.
And you said natural or...
yeah. But because they have concentrated it so much, it becomes so sweet. Right. So once you have the sugars in there, you are actually not getting any benefit. You are touching and making holes in your intestines. And then also some snacks.
Right.
Some processed snacks. Yeah, some processed snacks. You know, the kind of snacks that you're hungry or you need a chewy, you just buy it. Those are full of hidden sugars.
The chips.
You know, those that have added sugars to it. As well as what? The other sweets that we can't... You know what the products are?
You know, the crackers, sometimes they have sugar right in the middle. And you taste it, you know that it's full of sugar. Yes. So all such processed snacks.
Or cookies.
Yeah, cookies and the sweet, you know, the crackers and all that. If there's too much sugar, if you read the box, you try and read and see. And they are very, very clear. They will do sugar in there. They will state the amount of sugar, and they also add added sugar. And the corn, the fructose, you know, the corn syrup is also added. So if you really have a calculator, sit down and add all these kinds of sugar in that small amount of snack, and you know that you are taking in a lot of sugar that is not needed.
Definitely. And if you want, I mean, we didn't just choose this for truth. We did the research. The research says that these things cause, you know, openings or holes in your belly. They cause them. It is because, and the reason is that they feed the bad bacteria.
Right.
So if you are eating foods that are full of sugars or other sugars, what you're giving is you're giving the bad bacteria, bad fungus, and all those bad organisms that are living in your belly, in your intestines. You're feeding them to grow more. So they'll grow past the good ones. That is the key. And so avoiding them means that you're denying the bad bacteria their food. And so the good ones will survive. And so that is how we came about with the reason. Now, I mean, granted, we have done other shows that talk about the bad effects of sugar. You can go on the channel and look for some of them. But sugar and high fructose corn syrup. If it doesn't say sugar, but it says high fructose corn syrup, it's even worse than plain added sugar. So you got to avoid them all.
And also they are found in sauces, the ketchups and
tomato sauce,
other things. Yes. So if you are eating your sandwich and you have all your healthy stuff, just try and avoid the ketchup. You read it, a lot of added sugar. So stuff like that, you can take it out from your diet. And in so doing, you'll be feeding the good bacteria and denying the bad bacteria to overshadow the good. Yes. And what happens when you have more of the bad bacteria?
When you have more of the bad bacteria, there's something we call dysbiosis. Dysbiosis basically means that your flora, the microbe, the bacteria colony in your colon and small intestine is out of balance. Basically, the bad guys are reigning. And when the bad guys reign,
what happens?
The holes will happen. They will shoot holes into your intestine. See the holes, and then poisons, bacteria, food particles will go into your blood and start a whole cascade of inflammatory processes that will lead not only to diabetes or insulin resistance, but cholesterol plaques forming, a host of other diseases that you don't want to be talking about, So you can't go wrong with banning sugar. In our store, we have products that say ban sugar. I don't think I have it prepared to show you, but for those that are actually here, I think I may be able to show some of them. Say ban sugar, not this one, but let me see if it's this one right here. Ban sugar from your diet. Ban sugar from your diet. I still don't think I set it up for you to show, but yes, whatever you can do, ban added sugar. Don't add sugar. Don't let anybody trick you into adding sugar to something that you're buying from them, because they are. And the sad thing is, not only are they causing these holes, they directly also lead to diabetes. Apart from going in there, create a holes and lead to inflammation, which then causes insulin resistance, they are going to increase your blood sugar levels. If they are absorbed into your blood, they're going to directly increase your blood sugar levels. Right. So if you have a risk factor for diabetes, maybe you're over 40, you are on the high side in terms of weight, you have a family history, and you are drinking this, you are drinking yourself to diabetes. Apart from the holes that they will create to speed things up. I mean,
and look at the one that I don't get is like the donuts, that they sell. It's like it's already sweet, and they will have a glaze of sugar on top of it. It's added sugar, and sometimes they do the sprinkles, and it's more sugar. However, they can keep making it as sweet as possible. They keep adding more. So when it comes to choices, you have to think about the bad side of taking added sugar. If you don't know anything at all, today we are talking about leaky gut. So avoid added sugar as much as possible. Sometimes the sugars that we eat, we cannot avoid. Carbohydrates that we eat, we have sugars here and there. But the added one, the one that you are staring at it and you're pouring it in, is something that you can stay away and steer off it as much as possible.
As much as possible. You don't want to get a leaky gut. It's a host of things that go wrong. And, for women, sometimes too much sugar can lead to candida.
Yes.
And that's an example of the imbalance that we were talking about, right? So because you are feeding so much on sugary foods, what happens then is that you become prone to candidiasis. So you get what we call yeast infections all the time, because you are consistently binging on sugary foods. And the reason is that because you are feeding the candida so much with sugar, they overgrow the other good bacteria, and so they show up as infection.
Right.
That is the simplest way to explain it. So if you are feeding on sugar or added sugar, you got to cut it out in order to stay clear of those things. And that's just one obvious manifestation of the imbalance. So I'm not saying all of it is from that, but
from other sources.
It could be, but that's the obvious, because if you are using some some linings that you ladies use sometimes can be lead you to that. But the obvious thing is, if that is shown, and it's because you are drinking so much sweetened beverages, whether it is in your own tea, whether it is in some preparation juice, or whatever it is, if your added sugar levels are high, and that is happening, that is a simplest explanation that you are feeding the bad organs, the bad organisms, with the things that they need to grow. Now they are overgrowing. That's why those infections are happening
over and over.
over and over. So if you stop those sugars and you replace those with fiber, excuse me, you replace those with fiber, then you're going to be able to clear some of these things out. Sometimes it becomes so persistent that it will take a while for it to change. But the thing is, you got to start somewhere. You got to start somewhere. And that is.
And not only are you stopping, you are also adding things that will make the good one thrive over the bad ones.
Yes.
So you stop feeding on the ones that will feed the bad bacteria, but you have to eat things that will make the good one also survive and thrive.
Definitely. You see some thumbs up if you are watching and haven't put any thumbs up. Come on, man, do us the favor. Do us the favor. See one thumbs up on YouTube, and I've seen another one in Facebook. I don't see anything from LinkedIn. I see some from TikTok. We thank you all for doing that. Hit the love and follow and subscribe wherever you are. But your gut is the missing piece in your diabetes fight. If you have diabetes, start healing it today with one change from this video. Just one change. That's all we ask for you.
One change, right? And hit subscribe, because next week we are talking about 5 warning signs that show your gut is worsening your diabetes.
Oh, come on, man. 5 worsening signs that show your gut is worsening, right? We're going to show you. We wanted to add it to today, but it was going to make the show so long. So that's a teaser right there. Make time with us same time next week around 7 p.m. Eastern time in the US. And we will talk about those signs that show you that maybe your diabetes is being made worse because of stuff from your gut. I'll show you the signs, but you got to be here to watch with us. And until we see you again next week,
we say,
beloved,
we wish above all things that you prosper and be in health, even as your soul prospers.
Thanks for watching.
Thank you.
God richly bless you. Thanks for watching.